Benkei, the ultimate guardian. Today, we are diving into some of the most cinematic deaths in human history. We start with the story of a man who redefined the concept of loyalty. Imagine 12th century Japan, a dark, mist-covered night in Kyoto. A Buddhist monk named Benkei is prowling the streets. Now, monks were common, but Benkei was a giant. Standing at 6 feet 6 inches, he towered over the local population, wielding a lethal naginata, a polearm that's a cross between a spear and a sword. Benkei wasn't looking for spiritual peace. He was on a blood-soaked hunt. He believed the samurai class was arrogant and unworthy, so he set out on a quest to defeat 1,000 of them in single combat, taking their swords as trophies. He had already collected 999 blades. That night, he heard the faint sound of a flute near a shrine and spotted a small, slender samurai. Hanging from the man's waist was a magnificent gold-trimmed katana, the perfect 1,000th prize. Benkei challenged him instantly. To his surprise, the small man calmly put away his flute and agreed. They met on Gojo Bridge, but despite Benkei's massive size and strength, he was effortlessly defeated. The small man was Minamoto no Yoshitsune, a legendary warrior. Instead of killing Benkei, Yoshitsune spared him. Overwhelmed by this display of skill and mercy, Benkei swore an oath of eternal loyalty. They became an inseparable duo, fighting side by side in the Genpei War to crush the Taira clan. But victory brought jealousy. Yoshitsune's own brother, the new shogun, turned against them, forcing the pair into exile. The standing death of Benkei. In 1189, at the Battle of Koromogawa, they were finally cornered. Outnumbered 5 to 1, Yoshitsune realized the end had come. He decided to commit seppuku, ritual suicide, to preserve his honor, and asked Benkei to buy him time. Benkei walked to the only bridge leading to the castle and stood there alone against an entire army. He became a literal demon on that bridge, slaughtering hundreds. The enemy was so terrified of his raw power that they stopped attacking head-on. Instead, they called in archers. A hail of arrows pierced Benkei's chest, but he didn't move. Another volley hit him, turning his body into a pincushion. Yet he remained standing, glaring at the soldiers. For a long time, the army sat in silence, too scared to cross. Finally, a few soldiers crept forward. When they reached the giant monk, they realized the truth. Benkei was already dead. He had braced himself against his weapon, so that even in death, he remained upright to shield his master. His standing death gave Yoshitsune the time he needed to die with dignity. Part 2. The storm clouds over Korea fast forward to the late 16th century in Korea. For a long time, the country had enjoyed a period of peaceful stability as a loyal ally to China's Ming dynasty, while Japan was tearing itself apart in the Sengoku Jidai, warring states period. Korea focused on scholarship and bureaucracy. However, peace had made the Korean leadership complacent. The government was bloated with corruption, and the military was led by generals who had never stepped onto a real battlefield. This was a recipe for disaster, because in 1590, Toyotomi Hideyoshi finally did the impossible. He unified Japan. Now, Hideyoshi had a massive army of battle-hardened veterans with no one left to fight. To keep them busy, he set his sights on China. He sent messengers to Korea, demanding they provide a path for his invasion. The Koreans, viewing the Japanese as primitive barbarians, laughed off the threat. They joked that the Japanese didn't even know how to sail properly. The invasion of 1592 That laughter died in 1592
Move
when
faster!
hundreds of
Get the wounded
Japanese
to
warships
safety,
appeared
quickly!
off the coast of Busan. This wasn't a trade mission. It was a total invasion. The sight of the massive fleet was so terrifying that two of Korea's top admirals panicked and sank their own ships to avoid the fight, instantly wiping out half of Korea's naval defense. The Japanese veterans landed and moved like a lightning bolt. They marched toward Seoul, capturing forts and cities with ease. The Korean military, untrained and led by corrupt officials, was no match for Hideyoshi's war machine. Within just 3 weeks, the Japanese had seized Seoul. A few weeks later, they took Pyongyang and were standing at the gates of China. It looked as though Korea was destined to fall completely.